Hey all, welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and today we have my first build of the DDD lineup. Now this is after the new structure deck with all the support. I had this deck kind of floating around here during the Christmas break, playing around with it a little bit. Really been enjoying it, and I wanted to make a little deck profile to show you guys my lineup, which is what I've found is very similar to everybody else's. Everybody has the same sort of structural build that allow this deck to be really competitive, and I think that we all need to stick kind of close to that to have this archetype be its best. But of course there's always minor tweaks that go around, and I just want to showcase some of the ones I made and just to clarify why some of the cards are in the deck for what they are. Now I am still very much learning this deck, so I don't want to go too in depth or explain specifically why I chose some of these cards, just because I want to spend some time to learn a little better. So this is going to be my initial deck profile. Alright, so first off I run 3 Ragnaroks, that's pretty standard, and 3 of these because I really like the rank 8 engine, and I don't run any trade-ins, which I don't think they're as useful in this deck as you'd like. I think Allure of Darkness and Pot of Desires is way more effective, and I also tossed in the Judgment King here, Armageddon. One, because I think he just looks awesome. First of all, that's really cool. I like his whole style, and he just works really good with that rank 8 engine for the pendulum and everything like that. So I think he's pretty great to follow in those effects. And then I have just one Orthros, I'm not really sure how you say his name, but that's just so I can work with the meta a little bit better. He just helps me stay more in the game as it goes on, so I definitely run him for that very reason. Because I run him though, I only run 2 Copernicus, I'm gonna say that's also right, good on me. I run 2 of them. I do have one in the side deck though. I do sometimes toss it in there depending on how the game's going on, if I need a little bit more going forward. So also I run the 3 slime, that's fairly consistent with most people. I do run both at 3. I've seen some people only run the swirl slime at 2. I don't really understand that as well. I think he's fairly important to the whole general scheme of the deck. That is, of course, I don't run as many fusion monsters I've seen some people run, but I think 5 is still fairly consistent. I do also run the double Blaze King here. I just feel like that's still one of the ones that I see need to come out more often than not, so I still run him at 2. My side deck, the only thing I would tweak is just add some more fusion cards to it, as I find I'm running a lot of fusion based cards in the main deck and not enough in the side deck or the extra deck. And of course some of the new support, we got Lamia. I'm gonna hope that that's the name. I hate butchering these names, but that's the best I can do. So another support card that was added in with the structure deck, super useful. I find myself hoping for it, but only hoping for 1 copy. And that's mostly just to get the contract cards that we, the new support cards that we also got in the structure deck. Most probably the Dark Contract with the Gate. That's a pretty big one there. And then just to finish up the monsters, we also have the DD Sage Prophecy. Also, just to round off our monsters, we have the Kepler card here, and I do run that at 3. That's also fairly standard. And again, just more support with the contract cards and just the synergy of the overall deck. I think that you should run this at 3 as well. The last thing, though, is the side deck I'm going to talk about. That's one thing I do differently about the deck profile. I kind of talk about the side deck and the deck interchangeably. So if you guys don't mind that, that's one thing I do a little bit differently than most Yu-Gi-Tubers that I've seen in the past. So I run 2 Maxis in the side deck that I almost always add in game 2, because I keep finding that so many people in this format are still special summoning at insane levels. So I always just see what cards I can take out for the Maxis during game 2. So usually I see, sorry pal, the Judgment King Armageddon come out for a Maxi, and then usually another monster, just depending on what I didn't really want to see in the game, if that makes sense. But jumping on to spell and trap cards, we have Allure of Darkness for our main draw power card. Of course, all the cards in this deck are dark, and they're all fiends, so I'll get to that point in a second as well. But Allure of Darkness, obvious run. I'd be shocked if somebody didn't run at least 2 of these. I say 3 is standard. 1 for 1, I've been seeing this a lot too. Obviously, there's a ton of level 1 cards in this deck, so it's fairly obvious you would see the copy of this that we're allowed to run. Now I only run 2 Pot of Desires. I doubt a third one in the side deck. I just feel like it eats away a lot, a little bit faster than you would want. So I only run 2. Of course, I also have the Upstart down there. So I find that I usually modify my deck during game 2, like I said, for all the draw power cards. Upstart Goblin, more Pot of Desires, less Pot of Desires even sometimes, and of course the Maxis. And moving on, we also got the Foolish Burial. Of course, that's pretty standard to try and get some DDD cards in the graveyard, so you can bounce some combos off that. Of course, with more of the contracts, you can use the cards in the graveyard as well to help you, so that's pretty awesome. And obviously, probably the most important support card added to this in the recent little bit here is the Dark Contract with the Gate. It is just the draw power, the search. It's so good. I mean, you have to run it at 3. I've seen some people run it at 2. I run it at 3 as an obvious choice. I have seen some people run the Contract with the Swamp King at 1, and I've seen some people run it at 3. I find 2 is good for me right now. 1, I don't see it enough. 3, I see it too often for its main purpose. And of course, that damage at the end of the turn is actually, or a damage at the standby phase is actually pretty bad. And of course, with the side deck, like I said, the draw power cards, but I also have a Twin Twister in here, just in case I need to blow up some stuff. But I'm finding with the deck, there's so much potential for heavy storming, basically, and destruction and negation cards. I barely ever see Twin Twister. And if I had to take out any card in the next little bit, it's going to be Twin Twister for another fusion card in my side deck, just for a little bit of tweaking if needed. And of course, just the extra Swamp King contract there. And last but certainly not least, we got our trap lineup. I am running a bit heavier on traps than I've seen a lot of people, and I'm not sure that's the smartest choice on my behalf. But it has gotten me out of sticky situations, and of course this is a very game 1 build main deck, where game 2 my deck is usually overhauled pretty heavily with Maxis and draw power cards, and sometimes I see a lot of the trap cards leave the deck for that very fact, but this is at most has many trap cards I would recommend running, and that's only because you have to play defensive at times. So obviously I have Dimension Barrier, I have 2 of them. I do actually have a third one, and this is just to combat the meta right now. Of course, again, it's really great. Vanity's Emptiness, a pretty standard staple card of the deck. I think it's useful still. It runs fairly consistently with this deck, good timing and everything. Now I run 1 Contract with the Witch, just because it still adds that little bit of extra support that I like to have, just to target away, which is still a little bit dangerous. And I still have the second one in my side deck, but I find myself utilizing it more than I don't, so I'm going to keep it going. And then obviously I have 2 Solemn Strikes. I also have the Solemn Warning back in the side deck, but I'm not really sure if I choose to use that as much as I need. You're already losing so much life points. I don't think the Solemn Warning is really worth it. The Solemn Strikes, just because sometimes you really got to protect yourself. So one other card that I think I should stop running, because it's a very old card and I'm in love with it still, but I need to end this relationship. It's still Dark Bribe. I still love it. I still think it's great, and I should stop. There's better alternatives. It's not that slow of a game anymore. I should let this card go. One card I run just because sometimes it works, and that's I only run it at 1, and it's in my side deck, is Rivalry of the Warlords, because obviously we have all Fiend type cards, and I did have Goes on Match because they're all dark cards as well, except for some of the synchro cards are not dark cards, and I feel like I can still swing the Fiend enough, but not really the typing. And of course a second Witch and another Dimension Barrier, and then I also have the Eternal Darkness Dark Contract there, and that's just to stop tribute summoning. That's more for just a Monarch build for when I am fighting them, so I do like that as well. And just to end things off, we have our extra deck. We have, of course, our Wave Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. That is quite the mouthful, but he is pretty awesome. A huge beatdown, awesome ability. And then we also have Cruel Dragon King. I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Beowulf? Beowulf? I'm assuming you are a wolf. So I also run one of him. And of course this is pretty standard as well, just the Oracle King. And then we have, of course, our 2 Blaze King. I find myself going into him more often than I would be able to deal with if I just had 1, so obviously I run him at 2. And then we got Trishla. very standard card. You see that repeat over and over through each deck profile, and that's for a very good reason. It's just insane. Removal effect is pretty awesome. And this card is super standard in this deck. I think you should be running it all the time. I think it's one of the main boss monsters that aren't exactly from this archetype that you should be looking to go into frequently. And then we got DD Cursed King Siegfried. Awesome card. One of the newer cards as well. I have 2 of them set. Same with the Crystal Wing, actually. I have both of them in the side deck as well, just because I find myself, if I lose one, I want to go into it again later on in the game. So sometimes, depending on the matchup, I will add a second one into the extra deck. We also got 1 Omega, pretty standard as well. I see that in most deck profiles for this deck. And we got our Gust King Alexander there. Also pretty standard. I see it sometimes, not as often. It's just a level 7 that I find myself being able to go into sometimes. Very rarely though, but I still keep him in there just for that odd occasion. I do sometimes sub him out game 2. He's my go-to to take out, just so you guys are aware of that. And then we also have an Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. Of course, that's another card that pops up a lot. I can see why. It is fairly useful for the Pendulum ability it has as well. And then the Formula Synchron, just because we are filled to the brink with level 1s there. 9 of them, so it's fairly easy to get this guy off. And then the draw power is always pretty nice. And then you can obviously fusion summon to get another higher level Synchro monster. And then for the Xyz, we have 1 Duodon King Kali Yuga. That is also another mouthful. That's one thing about the DDD cards. They are mouthfuls. But yeah, of course he runs on the rank engine, and obviously that's one thing we excel in this deck. And then I just have another one to fill that gap as well. We have the number 38 here. Pretty awesome as well. Number 38, which is actually pretty good in the whole scheme of things. It follows the same consistency, and it's fairly useful. I like it just for more of an attack basic, and just to help me regain advantage on the field. And then finally we got Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal. This is just one that I've been seeing pop up, and I've been giving it a try. And just solely based on the rank 6 engine, it does help, but I find myself removing this a lot as well. It's not really one card I look to go into, and I think I'm going to look to replace it, but this is just what I have right now for coverage. Alright guys, so that is my DDD deck profile. I love saying that. Now this is something that I know is not going to be top. At least right now, I don't think it's going to be. I think it's just a really consistent, powerful deck that is going to be seeing some coverage, I guess, but it's never going to be the top 4. It's never going to be that level, but it does have the potential to compete with those, so that's why I'm playing it. I also just love this theme, the archetype, everything about it, and I hope to have more support come out for it that makes it a little bit more relevant, helps it with overall power. But yeah, this is going to be a quicker than normal deck discussion, obviously because I'm not going to be talking about combos and everything like that, because I just don't have the knowledge to do that right now. I'm not all there. But I hope that you like this overview of the deck. I always like putting the deck right up there from the beginning for you guys to view, if you want to see it and let me know what you think. I always appreciate any questions, comments, concerns, anything you guys want to discuss in the comments. I am totally game. I just want to make this as interactive as possible. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I hope to catch you in the next deck profile and the next video. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, peace.